Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and today I'm here to give you 5 reasons to read Helen Hoang's The Kiss Quotient. This is an Own Voices romance story about Stella, who is on the autism spectrum, and when the story starts, her mother abruptly announces that she's ready for grandkids, for Stella to have kids. But Stella is not. She works producing algorithms to predict customer purchases, and the sole love of her life is math. When it comes to dating, and especially sex, she doesn't really have much experience. So the only logical thing Stella can think to do is to hire a professional male escort to teach her the finer nuances of sex. But when the two of them really click, they have to wonder, can they keep this relationship limited to a professional arrangement? As I always say, the fact that this is Own Voices, which brilliantly lends itself to the writing style, should really be a reason to immediately read this book in and of itself. So reason number 1, the perspective of Stella as a person on the autism spectrum is so valuable and key to this book's success. What we see over and over again about autism in the media is that it's something awkward to laugh at. It's often played for a neurotypical audience at the expense of the character or characters. In The Kiss Quotient, this is very much not the case. It's really key that we're so close to Stella's thoughts right away because it's easier to empathize with her and harder to write off her experiences. If this same story were being portrayed on screen, Stella's personality would most likely be played for laughs. Sometimes what she says or does can be seen as funny, but you see that it's often unconscious or on accident. This way, from her point of view, you feel her frustration, her confusion, her discomfort. So you're going on that journey with her. You're not viewing her outwardly as an object for entertainment. When something feels wrong to her, you feel that. You start to think about all the little things she has to take into consideration on a daily basis, which brings a sense of wholeness to her experience that I don't feel like we've seen in other stories. To jump off that, reason number 2 is that Stella is a functioning, autonomous, successful adult, and it's extremely important to see that. Of course, it goes without saying that the autism spectrum is not monolithic and that the realities of that diagnosis are different case by case. But something we rarely get to see is people with autism who are adults, who are professionals, who are successful, who have happily built a life for themselves. Stella is amazing at her job. She loves what she does. She's been offered numerous promotions. She expertly manages her wealth, and in fact, she has money to spare, and it's really refreshing to see that. There are people with autism who are successful and happy and managing their own lives on a day-to-day basis. That is fact. Stella is thriving as an adult, and I think that's because she's in a place where she really understands herself. The fact that she doesn't date is not a defining characteristic. It's not because she's unattractive or disinterested or not worthy of love, but because dating requires a lot of socialization and spontaneity, which requires breaking from routine, which for her is very difficult. But now that she's found what she believes is a workaround, she is pursuing that with all she has. She knows how to help herself. She knows her limits, what she likes, and what she needs to feel safe. And that's just the result of accumulating all these lived experiences as an adult. Reason number 3 is that Stella's love interest, Michael, is fantastic. Michael is great. Right from the first page he's introduced. Right away, he is so open and accepting of Stella without Stella even needing to tell him about her diagnosis. And that just goes to show that when it comes to humanity, compassion, and respect, diagnosis disclosure is not a prerequisite. And when it comes to physical intimacy and sex, Michael leaves room for Stella to learn and explore. He asks permission and picks up on and respects her body language. Immediately, you know it's not going to be an innocent girl falls for overconfident douche dynamic, but rather a genuine experience between equals. Michael is so focused on making Stella feel good and building up her confidence. As a partner, he truly is a safe space, and that means so much. Reason number 4, the story truly prioritizes and portrays positive experiences with sex. This story also explores the sad reality that in the past, Stella has been used and mistreated by men, and that her needs have always been ignored outright in favor of a man's needs, which has left her with negative experiences. That's something she has to confront, and she has such an open, authentic, and safe relationship with Michael that they can begin to break down those barriers. Other men have often ignored Stella's discomfort and focused on just finishing themselves off, so it's no wonder Stella has internalized this idea that she's bad at sex. But the story shows that no one is bad at sex. There are only bad partners, because sex and intimacy is in fact a partnership between all participants. Getting to see Stella explore that for the first time in a safe space with someone who prioritizes her comfort and her needs makes for a really powerful reading experience. Reason number 5. Plain and simple, this book is fun to read. It's what I call an unput-downable book. It's sexy, steamy, heartfelt, it plays with tropes in really interesting ways, and it manages to sustain tension until the final page. I especially want to talk about that last part because the way this story sustains and builds tension was such a pleasant surprise. When you hear that this story is all about hiring a male escort and learning about sex, you wonder how the plot is going to hold up when traditional romance plot structure dictates that stories usually build up to sex. And Stella hires Michael very quickly. Within a chapter or two, everything's set up and Stella is determined to get down to business. But the story is very coy. It teases and goes about building in that traditional romantic and sexual tension in new and surprising ways. And even after Stella and Michael do have sex, there's still so much before them. There's still so much they have to work through as a unit. Their relationship doesn't begin or end with sex. So I really like that this story is able to maintain that steaminess and still build and develop that relationship despite its unorthodox beginnings. Bonus reason number 6. This book contains a much needed happy ending and shows that people with autism are deserving and capable of love. As I said before, it is vital to see characters with autism who are complex, who are successful, who are in no way less, and who pursue and obtain their own happiness. Neurodiverse people are capable of pursuing romantic relationships, and regardless of their sexual or romantic inclinations, they are worthy of happiness. And there's an important distinction to make here that Stella being autistic is not an obstacle to overcome in this book. The question is never whether Michael will still want to be with her if he finds out, but rather how can Stella make him see that their relationship is more than some arrangement? How can she make him see that what they have is as real as it gets? Frankly, that's the more interesting question, and in fact it might be Michael who actually has secrets about his past and his family life that he's worried about Stella finding out, so that's an interesting little twist. The story is wholly focused on how these two characters are going to push past what the world has taught them to believe about themselves in order to pursue that happiness. To see marginalized people having their day in the sun will always be important in books. Readers have been waiting for it long enough. So those are a handful of good reasons to read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. If you've read this one yourself, please come cry and flail with me in the comments. But that's everything I had for this book review / recommendation today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the flip side of the page. Bye!